Hello friends, I am Mr. Ravindra Bhalerao and I welcome you to my channel that is English for Learners. Friends, today we are going to see some of the textual questions and its answers from one of the best poem that is Cherry Tree written by Ruskin Bond. But before watching this video, as usual I request you don't forget to subscribe my channel. Let's begin. The name of the poem is Cherry Tree, written by Ruskin Bond. First of all, we shall see Icebreakers Activities. Number 1. Trees are revered because revered means respected. यानी पेड़ पौधों को रिस्पेक्ट किया जाता है कारण बिकॉज आंसर 1. They give us joy. 2. They look beautiful with their lush green leaves that soothes our eyes. 3. They clear the air by providing oxygen for us to survive and by taking away carbon dioxide to prevent pollution. 4. They provide us food and many useful things. 5. They provide habitat and food for birds and insects. Next activity 2. Column A shows your involvement in growing a tree as well as the stages in the life of a tree, and in column B shows the feelings you experience at all the stages. Match them appropriately. Column A and column B is given. Please watch it on screen. And its answers are from column A 1. You planted a sapling. Answer. You wanted to make a humble beginning. 2. You watered the plant. Answer. Your motive was to protect it. 3. You saw the shoot for the first time. Answer. Gave you a feeling of joy to see the promising future. Next 4. You fenced the plant. Answer. You cared for it. Next 5th. The plant gradually saw lush green leaves grow on it. Answer. The color symbolizing life gave you a feeling of hope. Next, the tree had birds too. Answer. The new experience brought excitement to you. And last one, 7. Birds made a nest on the tree which was fully grown and laden with flowers. Answer. You were happy and satisfied because you experienced what you had often heard, that small beginnings can lead to great achievement. Now let's see textual questions and its answers. Number 1. The thought which prompted the poet to plant the cherry seed. Answer. The thought which prompted the poet to plant the cherry tree was to have a tree of his own. Next question. The threads to the cherry saplings were. Answer. The threads to the cherry saplings were 1. Goats, 2. Grass cutter, 3. Monsoon. Next question 3. State whether the following statements are true or false and correct the false statements. Number 1. They destroyed the cherry tree. Answer. False. And correct sentence is they damaged the cherry saplings but could not destroy it as it had a violent urge to move ahead. Next sentence. The cherry tree had an instinct to survive. Answer. True. Next sentence. The blossoms are fragile. Answer. True. Next question. The poet felt richer because. Answer. The poet felt richer because he had a 6 feet high cherry tree of his own at his door. Next question, fifth one. The beneficiaries of the cherry tree are, answer 1. The finches, that is, the seed eating sunbirds. Next, the ecstatic bees who drank nectar from each bloom. Next, the moon moth who took shelter in the tree. Next, the singing crickets who took shelter in the tree. Next one, of course, the poet himself, who claims to be the owner of the tree, provides enjoyment for himself as well as other beneficiaries. Now, let's see brainstorming activities. Number 1, find proofs from the poem for the following. Number 1, the poet has mentioned different seasons. Answer A line, and suddenly that summer dot dot. B, next spring. Next sentence, the poet's minute observation of the steady growth of the cherry tree. Answer A, I found a tree had come to stay. It was very small, 5 months child, lost in the tall grass running wild. B, next spring I watched 3 new shoots grow. The young tree struggle upward thrust its arms in a fresh fire's lust for light and air and sun. See, I could only wait as one who watched, wondering, while time and the rain made a miracle from green growing pain. Next sentence. The color image in the poem. Answer A. Green color used in the poem quite often and it represents life. B. Pink color used to show the tenderness, fragility of the berries. And C. Blue color used for the sky as it represents the clear sky which the poet could see through the gaps of the leaves of the cherry tree. Next sentence. The struggle of the cherry tree for survival. Answer A. It was a very small 5 months child, lost in a small grass, running wild. B. But cherries have a way of growing through no one's caring very much or knowing. See, goats ate the leaves, the grass cutter sky split it apart, and monsoon blight shriveled the slender stem even so. All these dangers were handled by the plant boldly since it had the urge to live. And D. The young tree struggled upward thrust its arms in a fresh fire's lust for light and air and sun. The young tree refused to accept defeat and continued its struggle for survival in order to get the basic necessities of light, air, and sun needed for its growth. Next activity, state whether the following statements are true or false. Correct the false statements by finding evidence from the poem to support your remark. Number 1 statement is, the cherry tree did not take long to grow. Answer false. And correct sentence is, the cherry tree took 8 years to grow into a 6 feet high full grown fruit bearing tree. Next statement, birds and insects were benefited from the tree. Answer true. Next statement, the poet was exalted at the sight of the cherry tree. Answer true. Next statement, the poem has an underlying message about importance of trees. Answer false. The underlying message in the poem is not about the importance of trees. It mainly stresses on the struggle against adversities of life and how dedication and desire to survive can help any living object to come out of it. Next statement, the poet repents planting the cherry tree. Answer, false. The poet actually enjoys watching the magnificent cherry tree and takes pride in being the owner who has decided to sow the seed of this cherry tree. Next activity. Discuss the reasons or consequences or effects. Number 1. The life of the cherry tree was threatened. Answer. The cherry tree was so small initially that it was lost among the tall wild grasses all around it. The threats in its life were the goats who ate its leaves, the grass cutters scythe that could split it apart, and its tender stem had to fight the heavy monsoon. Moreover, no special attention or care was provided for it, but it was a fighter who could face all these threats boldly. Next sentence, the cherry blossomed. Answer, in spite of not getting any special care, the cherry tree, just by its urge to survive, could raise its head, fought all the odds in its life, came out successfully to nurture itself with the basic necessities for its growth, the light, the rain, and sun. With the passage of time, its hard work bore fruits and it became a 6 feet high full grown tree which happily blossomed with fruits. Next sentence, a small thought put in action led to a great achievement. Pick out the lines from the beginning and end of the poem and explain the significance. Answer 1 and line is, must have a tree of my own, I said. Explanation, the poet just wanted to be sole owner of a tree, and just with this simple thought in his mind, he sowed the cherry tree seed. It is just a passing idea of his mind, which he easily forgot. But the cherry seed had the potential to grow in spite of not having proper care and lots of threats on its onward journey in life. It was a winner all the way to grow into magnificent fruit bearing tree as it was dedicated to fight the odds. Next line. The line at the end of the poem, yes, I praised night and stars and trees, the small, the cherry grown by me, express the pride of the poet who takes the credit for creating such a beautiful life. He has no hesitation to accept that the cherry tree had struggled hard to come to this stage, but at the same time, he is excited that the process has been started by him and the result is unbelievable. Next activity. The cherry tree has inspired the poet to compose the poem. Such poems describing nature or aspects of nature are called nature poem. Find out some expressions from poem that bring out the element of beauty of nature. Answer 1. I could scarcely believe it, a berry ripened and jeweled in the sun. Number 2. There were blossoms small, pink, fragile, quick to fall. Number 3. Looking up through leaves, each bloom. Number 4. The sun sank, crickets. Now let's see activities related to extract. Extract number 1 or stanza number 1. Read the following extract and answer the questions given below. The beginning line is the young tree and ending line is breeze. These lines are from textbook page number 66 and 67. Activity number 1, A1, factual understanding questions, and that is complete the web to show the growth of the cherry tree. And answer is growth of the cherry tree. Answer, grew into a 6 feet high tree. Next, light, air, and rain made a miracle for its growth. Next, struggled to force out, even bore small tender berries. Next activity A2, interpretations or understanding of poetic device. Find out an example of climax from the extract and explain it. Answer, pink, fragile, quick to fall. They move from healthy to delicate. This figure of speech is called climax, where successive words, phrases, sentences are arranged in ascending order of importance. Here, the cherry blossom turns pink, ripen, and it's ready to be picked. Next activity related to personal response, and that is state in about 50 words your worries about cutting of trees for human habitation. Suggest at least one solution. Answer, I understand the necessity of providing place for human habitation, but at the same time I am worried about cutting of trees for that purpose, which is one of the main cause of environmental pollution. My suggestion is to make it compulsory for all housing societies to plant trees to get no objection certificate. Next activity related to poetic creativity. Without using any rhyming pattern, write a poem of 4 lines about your enjoyment in the company of your friend. And answer is, my friends are my assets, my lifeline, our togetherness, everyone's envy. We fight, we patch up, we cherish our love and loyalty. We are committed to protect our friendship. Protect we must. Now, next activities related to poetic devices. And number 1 is alliteration. The lines from the figure of speech alliterations are given here. Please watch it on screen. Next figure of speech is antithesis, and the lines are given. Please watch it on screen. And next one is also personification, and lines for figure of speech personification are given. Please watch it on screen. Now let's see activities related towards appreciation, and number 1 is that cherry tree is a narrative poem. Features that make a narrative poem are given below. Justify them with proper examples, and features are: number 1, the poem has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Number 2, different places are mentioned. Number 3, characters are referred to. Number 4, incidents are arranged in sequence. Number 5, there is a dialogue between the poet and the reader or the characters of the poem. And number 6, it is a time bound poem. Now let's see the answer of justifying of these features. Cherry Tree, a narrative poem which tells the story of the birth and growth of cherry tree by the poet Ruskin Bond. He carefully divides the poem in 3 distinct divisions of a proper beginning, a middle, and an end, as well as we usually find in a story. The story begins with the planting of a seed of a cherry which the poet, a young boy, sows in order to have a tree of his own. He forgets to take care of the planted seed, but the plant, with the help of nature and rain, has a natural growth. On its journey to its growth, it faces many odds in life, but by sheer willpower survives all adversities. Meanwhile, the poet has to go to Kashmir. When he comes back, he is surprised to see a full 6 feet high fruit bearing tree at his door. The poet is ecstatic in this middle part of the story. At the end of the story, the poet spends time in company of his cherry tree from dawn to dusk, enjoying the sight and sounds, birds and insects, the bright sun and the twinkling stars. He concludes the poem expressing his pride for being the creator of such an atmosphere because of his own cherry tree. The poem shifts to different places at different times as it begins in the poet's garden where the cherry tree has been sowed. Tells the readers about the poet's visit to Kashmir, comes back to see the cherry tree at his door, and finally ends at his garden where the cherry tree stands tall. The cherry tree is protagonist, that is the main character of the story, which narrates the different phases of the life of the tree in a span of 8 years. The poet, the owner of the cherry tree, also represents a character of the story since he is the one who is involved in the life of the tree, sometimes actively and sometimes by narrating the happenings in its life. Apart from these two main characters, there are some small characters like goats, the grass cutter, the birds, and insects who also play small but significant role in the story. There is definitely a continuity in the presentation of the story in a sequence from the planting of the cherry seed in the poet's garden, its life as a baby with tall grasses hiding it, its struggle for survival without having much care, its aggressive growth to get light, air, and sun, and finally become a 6 feet high fruit bearing tree. There is no direct conversation among the poet, the reader, and the other characters in the poem, but the presentation of the happenings in the story makes it appear as if the cherry tree is expressing its desires and determination to the poet. In the beginning of the poem, also, the poet tells his readers the reason for his sowing the cherry seed, and that is given in direct speech as if he is talking to his reader. It is a time bound poem since the sowed cherry seed grows into a full grown tree in a span of 8 years. The poet also intermittently keeps on mentioning about changes of season during the growth of the tree, his stay in Kashmir for one season, and finally after his return his feeling of happiness or seeing the fruit bearing 6 feet high tree. Next activity, write an appreciation of the poem. Answer: the poem Cherry Tree is about the poet Ruskin Bond's excitement over a cherry tree whose seed he planted 8 years ago and the steady growth of the plant to be a big tree bearing tender cherries. The existence of the tree is so important for the poet that he has not thought of any other title but the simple cherry tree to make the tree appear all important. The poet planted the seed of the cherry just because he wanted to own a plant. The plant grew on its own without much care from anybody except nature and rain, learned to fight against all odds, and was finally successful in bearing tender berries. The poet, after spending a season in Kashmir, came back to get the surprise of a 6 feet high cherry tree at his door. He felt so attached to the tree that he started spending long hours from dawn to dusk in the company of his cherry tree, watching the flora and fauna around its long hours from and taking pride for being responsible for the existence of the tree. The poet used simple language to narrate the birth and growth of his cherry tree. The process is known to all, but the narration made it an interesting story. The figures of speech used are all common ones and easy to understand. The beauty of the nature can be enjoyed and appreciated by one and all because of the informal languages. The poet had stuck to the topic of the cherry tree right from beginning to the end of the poem. Ruskin Bond basically writes for the children, and he has not done anything where a child's attention can be diverted from the cherry tree. The child can easily identify with the feeling and joys of the poem, and this gives the poem its exclusivity. But the poem also has a food for thought, a deeper meaning of struggle for survival, qualities needed to fight back and be a winner, dedication, growth, and pride. The cherry's fight starts at a very young age when it appears difficult because of its small size, but as it grows up, it learns through experience to be stronger. The similar situation happens in a human life also. The learning process continues at every young stage of life and makes a person capable of handling the adversities as tactfully as possible. The poet is proud that he has planted the cherry seed, which now gives him so much of satisfaction as the parents of an individual feels seeing the success of their child. It gives me immense pleasure to read and understand the beauty of the poem, the clarity in the language, and the lucidity of presentation help me enjoy each and every stage of the growth of the cherry tree. I am able to connect with its struggle and feel related when it wins the race of life. Friends, I hope you might have liked this video. If you liked it, please share it. If you have any suggestions for me, please write in comment box. Wish you a good day. Thank you very much.